But first, Vice President Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, are hitting the campaign trail in battleground states today. In his debut appearance as the VP pick, Walz introduced himself to the nation and went after former President Trump and running mate J.D. Vance.
Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, J.D. studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy.
Now Vance is hitting back. He spoke in Michigan just a little while ago, claiming Walz abandoned his unit when he served in the National Guard.
When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him. I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have to go.
ABC's Alex Prechet joins me now from the White House, along with ABC News contributing political correspondent Rachel Bade and Matt Smith from our Milwaukee affiliate for more. Rachel, J.D. Vance didn't seem to pull any punches today, talking about immigration, the economy, progressive politics, and even, as you saw, Walz's military record.
Yeah, that's right, Diane. It kind of feels like what is old is new again, specifically on that last attack regarding Walz's military record. Back in 2004, one of the top Trump advisors, Chris LaCivita, he actually was the chief architect of a similar campaign to try to question John Kerry's military service. And this was when he was obviously running for president. It did end up hurting him. And so Chris LaCivita has been out on Twitter making these same sort of attacks against Walz, what you just heard Vance talk about right now. Now, I do think that there's going to be questions about this. Obviously, Democrats are going to push back hard, given that Walz served in the National Guard for 24 years. And I think, you know, that's going to be potentially a contentious issue when it comes to whether voters actually buy that, you know, he was sort of dodging serving the country overseas. But I do think what you saw Vance do today was try to refocus a message right now. I mean, Republicans have been trying to get Donald Trump to focus on policy. And Vance, in this stop today in Michigan, he did talk about policy. He talked about immigration. That is one big thing that Republicans want to continue to push on. They note that Walz, in his state, he actually advanced bills that gave free college, driver's licenses, and subsidized health care to undocumented immigrants. And so, look, I think Vance was trying to advance this policy-focused message. I just am not sure about whether this attack on Walz's military record is gonna work the way they want it to.
Now, Alex, critics are also blasting Tim Walz for saying, they are saying that he failed to prevent a massive COVID-19 fraud scheme that ensnared the state of Minnesota, the Minnesota government. What's the latest on that?
Well, Diane, what's interesting, this is one of the largest COVID-era fraud cases that we know of thus far. Federal charges filed against some 70 individuals, basically saying that they took advantage of 2 different COVID-era relief programs to the tune of about $250 million. Now, it's important to note that Governor Walz has not been charged, or that even there haven't even been accusations that he was somehow involved in this. But the criticism is that he appointed the folks that were overseeing the handing out of these funds. And I can say that an audit done of the doling out, the disbursement of these funds, he did say that they could do better, and that any responsibility in that falls at his feet. But again, this is something that he has not been wrapped up in. He's not charged or faces any charges stemming from this case.
And Matt, Harris and Walz are set to hold their next rally in Wisconsin. What are you hearing from people there about this VP pick and about this stop on the campaign trail?
Yeah, so listen, this is where Vice President Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will be in just a couple of hours. We're in Eau Claire, just outside of Eau Claire, essentially in a large field. You can see behind me, this is going to be an outdoor event today, different than we saw in Philly yesterday. They'll then head on to Detroit later tonight. The crowd just starting to be allowed inside here today. Remarks expected around 1 o'clock Central Time. A massive line of vehicles and people looking looking to get in here today. And listen, in the past 48 hours here in Wisconsin, we're in Eau Claire, about 60 miles away from the Minnesota border. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, known in this part of the state more broadly. What part of this is getting his name recognition up. Democrats looking to identify him. At the same time, beyond that, what we're also hearing is from members of the congressional delegation, Senator Tammy Baldwin, saying, listen, the road to the White House runs through the Midwest. You see these Democratic governors, the blue wave governors, so to speak, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, they've banded together. They've gotten behind Tim Walz. Congresswoman Gwen Moore, for example, saying, listen, I was part of those behind-the-scene conversations in the past 72 hours looking to ensure that Tim Walz, the progressive candidate, was on this ticket. We're going to hear from Wisconsin's Governor Tony Evers today. We're going to hear from Senator Tammy Baldwin, who's in the midst of her own re-election fight in herself.
Thank you all.